Welcome! This is what this video is about. Using a photographic reference loosely to take a look at an object that we walked past the other day and decided, hey, that might be fun to model. And here we have perfect examples. They're called Adirondack chairs. I think they're enormously uncomfortable. But if we pay a little bit of attention, we can approximate their shape, get the graceful curve that is sort of the highlighting point of Adirondack chairs. This curved back, which I think is actually kind of fun to look at. It's not Danish design good, but it is nice. And we can do this using a sneaky trick and some careful modeling, and we can also get it correct from the side. That's just, you'll never get up. If you sit in this thing, prepare to stay there for all summer or until the mosquitoes make you go take a shower. This is an Adirondack chair. I took this picture. Someone's yard. I thought it was really cool. Some modeling tricks you may not know, even if you've been using Blender for a while. This is not chock full of tricks, but it's nice to be able to do complicated things in ways that are as easy as possible. This is part of the Summer Asset series. So I've got a couple chairs, arched arbor, a couple videos on their way, and I dig it because modeling practice cannot be overstated. Just as the swimmers keep swimming the same lap of water over and over, we could model things again and again until we find a better, more efficient way to model them. So today, Adirondack chairs. If you're up for the challenge, and this looks like some sort of simple enough bit of challenge for you, then you might be in for a little thrill, because these things have a couple of secrets that are kind of fun. And I try to make the video a little bit shorter. I tried to make one yesterday. This is a whole lot shorter. We use curves, we use edges, we use modifiers, we change things around, and then we do this very easy, I mean real easy way of coloring the chairs so that every chair, of course, at the picnic is going to be a new color, because it's important to do that. So if that sounds like something that interests you, this might be the video for you. Let's zoom in on that guy, shall we? This might be the video for you. Get ready. Hello, hi, hola. Let's do this. Handle and greeting, the hello hiola part, the arched arbor. Here it is, my yesterday work for these chairs. Let me collect this stuff and put it elsewhere. This is a copy that I no longer need with a fantastic color. I'm going to move my Blender 2.79 stuff that I was working on yesterday over to layer 8, and now I have a clean scene that should resemble you having just opened your version of Blender. And so we can begin on a clean layer without the environment. Shift S to make sure the cursor is to the center of the world. And boy, look at all these things I've been working on. I've been having such a good time. Summertime assets. Yesterday was a big lesson for me because I was working hard on trying to create these, and I inadvertently came up with some improvements to what I thought I was already doing a good job with. So I'm going to create a plane and tab into edit mode and rotate it along the X 90 degrees so that in the world of things, my forward is Z up and positive X values going to the right. So the world values will be a positive Y values going backward. If you press 1 on the number pad, you'll notice that is what Blender considers to be the front view of things. Now GZ1 to lift this to the ground. Control Tab E, get into edges. I want to make this twice as tall as it is wide. So GZ1, that's very simple. And in just a moment, I'm going to do some other nifty things to curve it upward so that we can get the famous curve of an Adirondack chair. Look with me. a narrow bottom that's about 2/3 the width of the top. And I would say that narrow bottom puts the beginning of these scalloped parts at about twice the height. Does that make sense? So now it's about twice the height of a narrow part. Now I can play with the scallop, and how many, give me a second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slats. So Control R and then the mouse wheel so that I can get 5 slats just like this. Right click to commit to that. Grab this top one, pull it straight up, top center, and now take its neighbors and pull them so that we get something that kind of is the way we want it, like that. That's a little scallopy, and I might make it taller because it should look a little bit more elongated in my opinion, and perhaps even slightly wider at the top. This part is, I'm going to leave it to your good aesthetic judgment. I'm doing it like this. I'm not going to tell you the measurements. We are going to do some beveling, so that's a lot of fun. First, I'm going to curve the slats. So I'm going to tab into object mode. So I sit here and think while I do this. I'm going to make sure that it's solidified at an offset of 0. Might as well go 0.05 for what I'm doing right now. These, tabbing into object mode, these seats lay back. There's a curve here. It's subtle, and yesterday I tried to make this curve, 5 and 7 on the number pad, from the top using a curve, and it was partially successful. So Shift A, curve, Bezier. Tab into object mode, press the letter V, go vector so that it straightens out. Good news, now we can press V again and keep everything aligned. I can take a right click to select just this handle, shift right click select just that handle, and now I've got them both and I can create the curve. I really only want to go back just a little, so I'm going back 1/10 of a Blender unit. It looks like 0.13, so a little more than a tenth, but that's fine with me. Tab into object mode, and there it is. Very important, the curve data shows it is a resolution of 12. This resolution of 12 means, tabbing into object mode, pressing Alt-C, converting to mesh from a curve, that when we take a look at it, that's 0.5 on the number pad. Tab into edit mode, Control Tab V to go into vertices. There should be, in this case, 12 segments that make it up. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so it's 12 segments, not vertices. 2, 4, 6, 8, ooh, kind of blind, 10 and 12, there they are. So those are the 12, and it doesn't always correspond to the curve resolution, but in this case it does. Now I'm going to extrude all of them upward on the Z. In shaded view, and without looking at that, that was H to hide it in object mode. In the shaded mood, when you're feeling shady, and that's your mood, you can go ahead and Control Tab F for faces, mode, if you're wondering. Activate the mesh display to see which way those face normals are going. If they're going backwards, and most often, the 2 times I've done this, they go backwards, flip them forward. Good. N and T will hide and reveal the properties for N and the tool shelf for T. Control Tab E. Just get the edges that make the edge. And we're now going to extrude backward on the Y. Extrude Y backward. Go back some. Now S, Y, 0. Enter on the number pad, and here comes your new best friend for modeling. It's grid fill. The wrong way to do this is with the letter F. Now we have an N-gon with tons of vertices and not a quad. Don't do that. With these edges selected, Control F, choose grid fill. Lots of quads. It is a great way to keep things clean for lighting and for textures and materials later on. This whole guy has to go and match about 3/4 of the way up for our slats. So let me Alt-H and unhide anything that is hidden. 5/3 number pad, taking a look and pulling it up to about 3/4. I'm eyeballing it. I'd done some measurements before for another chair, for one of these lawn chairs. This lawn chair exists in my big file here, but some of these small parts and the ribbons were so complicated that it became, even with measurements, too difficult for me to create a tutorial for. 7 to look at it from the top, and here we are. Big important part now. I want what? I want this thing to get near the outermost slat. So let me just select it all and begin to move things around in object mode and in edit mode so that the edge of what I just made comes close to that slat. So do you like the proportions of what you're working on? Use this seashell scallop shape to determine that. I'm sort of okay with it. I may narrow mine down a little bit. And now this has put me in position where I'm satisfied. Now what I'm going to do, perhaps it's easier in wireframe mode or even without viewing the modifier in solid mode. What I'm going to do from an orthographic view at the top, that's 5/7 on the number pad, I'm going to take the entire center face and pull it back so that it just gets snug to the piece I created. The problem is that the modifier goes halfway through. I'm looking at it from the top, so I don't want a perfect match. It's a curve and a straight line trying to fit to a curve, so I think you can imagine what problems may be there. So next is going to be an edge. I'm going to make these edges, orthographic view from the top, do something similar. This is actually a little trickier than I thought. We're not doing the lean yet. The seat is leaned back, but it's easier, I say to myself, to get the curve of the scalloped back from an orthographic view where everything is still aligned to the global XYZ than it is if you lean this chair back even slightly. Now that's bizarre. Do I not have symmetry? I don't have symmetry. I see a little bit sticking through over here, but I don't see a little bit sticking through over here. Alright, that's the fault of the Bezier curve. So tabbing into object mode, now I'm going to select that Bezier curve. I'll tab into it, and now T for tool shelf, mesh. I want to symmetrize the negative X to the positive X, or even the positive X to the negative X, doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and do one or the other, and then I will do the same for this. I'll select the entire thing, make sure that it also is symmetrical. Eventually, yeah, we're just going to mirror it. As a matter of fact, I think that's probably our next step. So now it matches roughly. Gosh, that's so hard to look at. Edit mode 5 to go into perspective view, and then T to hide or reveal that tool shelf. The easiest way to see how you're doing is to look at a rendered view. Is there any little tiny bit of shadow here? No, there's not. I want a little tiny bit of shadow. So I'm going to take this beam that we just made and remember to pull it back on the Y once I'm satisfied about the edges. I don't think I am satisfied with the edges of the scalloped seat. Sorry, man. It's hard to explain what I'm doing right now. I'm pressing 8 and 2 on the number pad, but G and Y will allow me to, there we go, really make sure that I am evenly silly across all of that stuff. Alright, that satisfies me. It's snug against the edge. And before I do anything else, I'm going to tab into object mode, tab into edit mode for this brace, hit 3 on the number pad to look at it from the side. I'm going to make a copy, bring it down almost to the bottom. So I want to take everything, which is now everything, Shift D, Z. Bring it down almost to the bottom because there is another There is another down at the bottom, but its curve is closer. It's, you know, you're going to see. You're going to see it right now. 7 on the number pad, and then the number 9 gives you the opposite of what you just looked at. That's something someone should make a video about. I want to select this entire thing. Hey. I want to make sure that I actually have closed parts, and I can use bridge edge loop to do that. And I'm going to, with faces selected, select these end faces, and I'm going to hit E and enter. What I've done is essentially made an extrusion that goes nowhere. I'm going to select these 2 edge bands, Control Alt right click, Shift Control Alt right click, Control number pad until I get, and that was plus, Control number pad plus, until I get to that extruded part. So it is not selected. Control number pad minus will shrink your selection. And now 7 to look at it from the top, 9 to magically switch your view to the visual opposite. And now SX. Now I can maintain the overall length, but shrink in what needs to be shrunk. And that curve should more or less match the scalloping that takes place. That's actually a big win. So as long as that took, you think it took even longer yesterday because I did everything at an angle. Now we're getting ready for the angle. I'm, if you'll excuse me, going to set up my stopwatch so that I don't talk forever. Because I like the brain fruits that I came up with yesterday, but you don't need to hear everything about it. Easy parts of this chair include the leg, the slats, these supports, and the arms. So we've done the hardest part. Let's lean it back until we're satisfied. Let me go into this, and I think I want to dissolve the... I don't always know how to dissolve, so what I'm going to do is just sort of connect this vertex to the next. So that's right-click select and then right-click select. I could try to be macho and just dissolve an edge. Let me see if I can do this. Since it is a teaching thing, I cannot rip faces. I didn't know I was trying. X. I don't think this is going to work. Dissolve faces. It did not work. E. Select the edge I want to dissolve. Dissolve edges. It dissolved. And its vertex is gone. On the top and on the bottom. I wanted this. I want now for this to separate correctly. Control Tab E. I want to select these guys which represent the splits. What size is that split? Do you and I agree it's about a third of the slat in the middle? Alright, so let's look at this thing. Select those on the inside. And Control B, let's bevel them so that they are eyeballed a third. See, they won't fan out very well. The benefit of doing it this way is that they don't fan out equally. As you can see, they overlap and crash, but the distance between the slats will remain a constant, allowing the slats to appear that they were manufactured wider at the edges. So then with the shift button down, I'm really just eyeballing this here. These are all faces, so if I XF right now, those faces are gone, our slats are there, and we have something that resembles the general position of these. Scalloping is easy. Control Tab V. Pick, and save the top for next. Those, Shift Control B is going to let us bevel, and because it is a turn that goes in this direction instead of an inside turn, it's an outside turn, we're not having any problems. So pretty. Maybe I don't want to do it too much, but just a little bit. What do you think? You do it the way you feel like doing it. That looks like fire. Fire. All right, let's do it like fire. All right. This Shift Control B. I roll my mouse wheel to give myself 5. And on this one, this gets very round, so I think I'm just going to do 3, but I'm going to keep it really like shallow. There we go. That is going to be what satisfies me. I will enable the view of the solidify, and there it is. The happy top, although I think I'm going to lift. Yes, I'm going to lift this one. I'll select these guys up at the top, and literally, because I'm still manufacturing this along the XYZ, pull it up. And I believe I'll even push these down just to get, you know what I should do? Scratch that. Shift V. I should slide them down the existing edge they're attached to, because what this will do is maintain the angle that was put there during creation, during making it. If I moved it straight down, it would change the size of the distance between the slats. Since I slid it with Shift V, I slid the vertex, it maintains that slight angle because it's not vertical, as you can well see. Now why don't we make this real, I think, and attach it. So we want something that maintains the pivot point down at the bottom, and the back slats do. So first the holder, and then Shift right click select the back slats, Control J, they are joined, and we've maintained a pivot point down at the origin, which is original. Lean it back, go to 5 on the number pad, and go to 3 and lean it back. That's an R. We can lean it back in object mode, and what that will do is preserve the rotation as the object's rotation. Now, technically we shouldn't be doing this to model correctly, but this way, if we ever need to come back, now we know that aesthetically 13.7 degrees in a negative direction along the X was the way we went. I think maybe I'll do that a little bit more. This is, it's for this project, it's not really that important. But let's create something new, and it's going to be a plane. It's going to be a plane with the same solidify modifier, and 0.05 is what we had done, and 0 for the offset. Now this, I want to be the seat. I'm going in edit mode to push it forward, and I'm going to push it forward. I said the seat, right? You know what? No, I'm going to do this thing that holds the slats for the seat. Let's see how much I've thought about this. RY90, like not terribly much. I'm only going to do one. I'm doing this in edit mode, so if I tab back into object mode and press mirror for a modifier, it gives it to me, socks it to me on the other side, which is great. Now 5 and 3, I can go ahead and work on this thing with the vertices. How far up is this chair? This is all, I could have measured it, but I didn't. Geez. Love it. Okay, how far back is this chair? I'm going to say that the back of this leg meets the back of the slat. Terminology. Chair biology 101. I have this problem when I'm trying to explain things. I remember in school they gave us a lesson writing out directions for just the simplest thing. You know, tying your shoes. But writing it out, it's so hard. You realize you're really stuck for words. 13.7 degrees, you say? You want to do it this way? It's a little... Nah. You know what? We're just going to... No, we're not going to do that. Control R, put something up the middle. We're going to use this later. So turn off solidify so that you can see what you're working on. How far forward do I want to go? I'll take this edge and I will move it that far forward. How far forward? Like that far forward. And I will just lift it. And now I will lift this vertex to create a straight line. I've got a straight bottom, and I've got what I hope to be is kind of a straight line this way. This vertex is a real important piece. So do me a favor and Shift V to get it sliding backwards along its newly appointed straight line here, about in front of the slats. Okay? About in front. And the vertex on the bottom, ooh, it's a very narrow sucker. Bring it in. And since it matches the y-axis, you can just bring it all the way into here. So you and I both see, right, that this is super tall, so I've made a bit of a mistake. I'm gonna start all over. I'm just gonna lower it. Now it's low. And I'm just gonna raise this one until I get that straight line. That is almost better, I can tell. Shift V. And right in front. You know what? I'm going to leave it where it is because I'm going to take all three of these and yep, should have measured. I'm going to leave it exactly as you see it. I'm going to take this and now Shift Control B. I'm going to bevel it so that with 5 segments, I'm moving my mouse to make those segments roughly, you know, maybe I'll go 7. So it looks like that final vertex on the bottom left corner there is a part of this group there. So it looked like this guy and this guy are equidistant, okay? So they're all equidistant. This whole thing I'm going to raise in object mode. And look at that. I almost got the angle right, even just by eyeballing it. You see? I want to better match that angle, but I'm not going to worry terribly about changing the leg. I can now just change this. R, with my shift button depressed. I'll make it happy in just a moment. Done. 2.74 for me. Negative value, I imagine. All right, there we go. This is the profile of our Adirondack chair, and the leg portion that we just worked on needs to come outward slightly to hold. Is that true? Needs to, yes, right here. Come out slightly. Gosh, look at that. Even they got it just a little bit wrong. I love when it catches shadows like that. Hang on. Hold on now. Let me GX and move it slightly outward, but I need to see how much it is solidifying. So that was GX, and I need to get it to the edge so that these pieces that represent wood don't actually collide. And now, orthographic view from the right, I might just rotate this back the way it was. 2.74, I said? Fine. So it's just a hair wrong, which is cool. It's cool to be wrong because Blender and its ambient occlusion, they do love a good shadow. It really loves a good shadow. And so here's a little extra bite of shadow between these two pieces. And you could further bevel things. Now we can simply move the holders backward along their normal. Because all these angles match on the slats and their holders. So tabbing into edit mode, I'll select a vertex and Control L to grab everything that is connected to that selection of vertices. And the easiest way to do this is remember that it is on the y-axis backwards. Go ahead and GY to have a look at things. And now, in a rendered view, make sure that we get some tasty shadows. And look, these little shadows where ambient occlusion and light and shadow can gather really add unexpected detail. I love light catchers. That's what I'm calling it. Things that catch light and shadow. Anyway, that was easy. And I'll probably move the legs back. So now, object mode, grab these guys, edit mode, or you know what, object mode. I'm going to move them back slightly, so there's still a flaw. Okay, 5 and 3. Bravo. Why don't we make a copy of the legs? Shift D, enter. That was a copy in edit mode. I'm going to move them back. I'm going to have a look at them. I only want rectangles. So Control, Tab, F, take anything that makes up this face and kill it. XF. Very good. Take an edge. SY0. Make it straight. This one, SZ0, make it straight. Ta-da! We now have a straight little plane that's playing along. I will set its origin to the geometry just to make things easier for myself. T for tool shelf. This is gonna be this one that goes straight up and down behind the leg we just created, up to and holding the back of the top curve. Edit into edit into edit mode and do it. Knock it around. Make it happen. Z. Don't go all the way down. Go partially down. And this is where you're going to find out if you have done a good job matching things up. And I have not. I'm going to pull this in so that it matches this curve right here. That's fine. Or this angle, this point right here. And I'm going to pull this up. And oh well. Now I'm going to take the whole thing in object mode, move it forward correctly, and then upward to find its old location relative to this bottom holder. These things are so uncomfortable. And that looks uncomfortable. Good job. Control R and prepare to get this wood bent in the right way. Now, is it a proper distance? It needs to be inward, inward, inward. Select it all and move it on the X. Now it's inward. Inward means inside the curved holder, which is inside the final slat. And that means also that we could concentrate more carefully with how far inward it is now. And I will tab into edit mode, not do that, pardon me. Control tab F, make sure I'm on faces, get that face and this face and SX slightly. Good. Now I will take this and make sure that it just touches those. Into edit mode, select it all, GX. There. Now it's just touching this part. I'm going to say GX. There. Okay. So we need the bottom curve to be smaller across than the top curve. Wasn't aware of that. And now this is going to rest against the curved leg part, GX. Quite simply, there. Okay. And now we can cut it. Fake cutting is wonderful. So where does this edge really belong? It really belongs forward, so that's GY, and upward, this vertex. Now if I'd been using all rectangles to do this for real, I would be in so much trouble, but I'm just using a plane. Using a plane makes this so much easier. Instead of moving matching pieces of geometry, I just move one piece of, I should say, geometric element. The vertex, the edge, and the face are geometric elements. I don't even see this one. Now it's down. So it is as though it has been mitered or cut to fit. Ugh, this one way, way, way down. Don't be shy. Go way down. That's right. Because this is straight up and down along the Z-axis, I do not have to use Shift-V to slide the vertex. Great. Let's see. And the inside is a little squirrely. It collides, but the outside does not collide. So there it is. That's nice. And with some sunlight, that's even nicer. There's some sunlight for you. Look at that. This is where we are. And okay, we're not too far in. The next part is tricky, and this is really good for new modelers. The slats upon which you sit, we're going to call it the seat bottom, is made up of these rungs. I don't know. The rungs can be made real easily. Let's make a plane at the center. Let us right-click something with a solidify modifier. That was shift right-click, and now Control L and apply the modifiers to the plane. Right-click select the plane and get rid of mirror. We don't need mirror. Now we have a plane. Right-click select the parts that hold the slats for the seat. Bleh. Tab into edit mode. Control tab E for edges. How far down do those slats go? They go all the way down to the bottom of that turn near the sharp edge. Remember I said we got to move this vertex ahead of the slats of the back? This is why. Select that edge. Shift right-click select all the edges that have seat slats stuck on them. Shift D, make a copy. Enter. P, separate by selection. Tab into object mode. Right-click select the object you just created. Kill the modifiers, both solidify and mirror. Alt-C, convert it to a curve. And now, in edit mode, tab into edit mode, use the letter A to make sure everything is selected, press period on the keyboard, and SX0 to move that curve to the center that matches the 3D cursor, which is at the center of the world. So far, you are doing an amazing job. Tab, N, name it, so it's easy to find. See, it's still called plane 8. We're going to call this seat slat, or whatever, curve. Seat slat curve, of course. Take what we had just made, tab into edit mode, and shrink it along the y-axis. So SY to scale it down, 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 down. And now on the x-axis, pull it outward so it just sort of comes over what holds the seat slats. I hope you see where I'm going with this. Tab into object mode, name it seat slat because it's fun. Can you say that? Seat slat curve is where we're going. Let's make a modifier. Add a curve modifier. That curve should be the seat slat curve. Add an array modifier and have the array modifier fit a curve that is a, come on, say it with me, 1, 2, 3, seat slat curve. And now all you have to do is fish around madly with a constant offset and find where the heck the curve is hiding your seat slats. Solidify, array, curve, constant offset of a negative value, and then negative deformation axis. And now control mouse wheel upward so that our seat slats are more where they should be. There is an offset in the distance. So the seat slat curve is where it belongs, but unfortunately, as far as height, but the seat slats are not. Blah. Tab into object mode of the seat slats. Make these things visible during edit transformations, and now figure it out. Oh, because it's a negative value, I have to move up instead of down. Of course, man. Well, like, duh. The curve is a perfect fit because it came from the curve. Oh my gosh. I dig it. I dig it. It's just sometimes you have to get so close that it's kind of ridiculous. There we go. I need to see how much it's intersecting. So that's a GZ and a negative value brings it up. Okay, thank you. Done. Tab into object mode, and there we are. Shift Z, and what do we have? Dun, 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 dun. All those seat slats for nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, if this happens, where you have a collision, remember that you can keep changing some of these numbers until things hop. And if fitting the curve isn't working for you, you can simply follow the curve, but put in a number. And let me see if I can do that. Fit curve fixed count. Right now it's 2, so that's a little silly. And this is where the problem begins. So that's interesting. I'm going to have to move my curve. You may have to move your curve too. Once it exceeds the curve, it just shoots down in a straight line. That may be handy for people who are building lounge chairs or things of that nature, and you just want to have it shoot off. So now let me select the curve and go into Tab Edit Mode. Select what is a control point, and see if I can move it along its own normal. That's good. Let's do it. It is now off the other slats and begins more accurately where I wanted it. Tab into object mode, and look at this, it nearly bottoms out in the correct spot. Sweet! Good for you! Control S, save your change, so when the cat steps on the power cord, you don't have to kill it. The computer, that is. Now, let's remember what the hell we're doing. Okay, here's a straight part that has modifiers solidify and mirror. The next straight part is going to be the arms, but here's something I learned yesterday. That straight part really wants to be built from a curve, so why don't we move to the forward brace? So why don't we move to the forward brace, he said. A, to select it all, change your transform orientation to global, and then Shift D, Y. Move them up. Move them where up? Move them kind of to the introduction of that hump that holds the seat slats. Control Tab F, select a face that's unnecessary because we only need one face for this. You see, it is just a rectangle. Now we can make a rectangle. Control Tab E, select the top edge, SZ0, and double check SZ0 for the bottom. The bottom almost matches the bottom of the actual, whatchamacallit here, chair here. I'm going to move this so it is thick-ish, and now I'll take it all. Whoops, no, I won't. I'll use Control L to select just that part, and I'll move it to the outside. With the visibility of the solidify modifier, I can move it just enough to the outside to embrace a couple seat slats as though they've been routed around there. So, ooh, that's too tight. I want more shadow. You know that. That was an X-axis. GX. Shift button down. Oh, yeah. Oh, talk to me, shadow. You're so dark. Now I'm going to take the edge that's at the bottom. That's so confusing, right? 5 and 1. Make sure that it matches the bottom of the chair, which is right down here. Okay, thanks for waiting. I really wanted to concentrate. All right. Tabbing back into edit mode there. 5 and 3, let's look at this thing. How far does that go? It goes so that the arm of the chair is about there. Does that make any sense? Not really. Let's make the arm of the chair. Tab into object mode. 7 from the top in orthographic view. Let's draw. Shift A. My fingers are all sloppy right now. Shift A, Bezier curve. Tab into edit mode. And G to pull it way the heck away. V to change the handle type to vector. And now change those things around so that we get a rectangle, basically, that runs from the back support beyond what we just created as the front support. Where'd the back support go? I don't know. It's back here. This is the back support. So I'm going to take this and go back to it. I am going to take this control point, I think it's called, and go almost to the front of the chair. Is that what I said? Yeah. Now I'm going to take both, shift right click, select that other one, and press E to extrude them along the X, and I can come out sideways as far as I see fit See how thick this is? That's pretty thick relative to the chair itself. F creates a brand new sucker between those 2 points. That sucker is called a segment between 2 vertices. Sometimes vertices are called control points. Now we have an interesting problem. There's a curve that holds a fat American right there. And there's also a little wiggle right here. Let's make some wiggles. In order to preserve this distance, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm going to take these 2 and press W and subdivide. Now I will take these 2, press W and subdivide. I did not want to subdivide across the short segment. I only wanted to subdivide across the long segment. Inside, sorry, it's so hard to see, this segment, I will now create the curve that holds a large occupant. That curve takes up more than half this distance. It's pretty big. Like, it's a pretty significant curve. As a matter of fact, I might even do this one more time, but I'll take the new vertex that I just created and put it so that it's roughly in line. Gosh, you know what? I think I'm going to leave it right where it is. In line with the slats on the back. It's like a crazy mess, isn't it? So hard to explain this. Imagine writing it. Now I'm starting this curve, and it will go and meet this curve to a hard angle. Right? Works for me. This represents, oh my gosh, start of the curve, end of the curve. Take this, move it out. So I can't show it to you like this. Now I'm going to take all of them and make them free. A, V, free. Nothing changed except now we can move the control handles that come from the control points. Mercy. This one should be straight, and this one can actually, this whole control point can move down, and this handle can move upward along the y-axis. Don't get confused, just follow my shape. I'm going to make the shape, and then you go ahead and make the shape the way you want to make the shape. We're going to do this twice, as a matter of fact. That part right there is like the money. I love that. That part is so delightfully easy. Ta-da! Let's add nothing. Let's convert it. So now, Alt-C, convert to mesh. Now let's tab into edit mode. Make sure we can select edges. Select them all and do something cool. We've done it before. Control F, grid fill. Bum, bum, bum. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Grid fill is real smart, and it's not just F to create a face. Now, if something like this happens, we can begin to tweak the numbers. I'm going to change the offset very quickly, positive, negative values, just to see where it lands me. Ooh, it is. That is one unhappy. Yeah, that is one unhappy. All right, I might dissolve every other vertex. What do you think? Can I do it? Select, check or deselect every other vertex, but I want, yeah, I want to maintain my corners. See that corner? I also want to maintain that corner, so that means I have the wrong ones selected right now. Do it. Looks like the same shape to me. select all those edges and try again to grid fill. Ah, success. You thought I was going to say suck? No, it's totally success. In edit mode, lift it. Good job. And that's so nice. That's so like refreshing to me. It is a plane. What do we do with planes? Well, we solidify planes. And what else do? We mirror planes because we haven't moved its origin. And thickness 0.05 and offset point nothing. Nothing point nothing. Make it thicker. Thickness 0.075. That's chunky. Alright. Did we match it up? We almost did. In edit mode, with everything selected, make it touch. Make it do what it's got to do. You know it's got to touch that part. And you know you can, if you want to, make it flush right there. So we can make it flush in any number of ways. I could move it forward, and if I feel that that messes things up, then I can, you know, scale it on the y-axis, whatever. Now it's all detail work. So don't knock yourself out, because level of detail says don't knock yourself out. Hello Hyola says don't knock yourself out. If you didn't like the where did it go? Come on. There we go. If you didn't like the shading of these faces right here, don't worry. We are going to take care of those, okay? Because I don't like them. Now, let's make this arm sit beneath... Whoa. GZ, sit beneath it. What? 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 G... I'll get it right. G... Oh, I was pressing GX. GZ, I'm hungry. Oh, and I don't have any coffee? That's it. Got some. Now I'm ready to remember my alphabet. We'll see about that. A little bit more, please. I need your shadow. That's not much shadow. Let's try a little more. GZ. In Blender 2.8, we're going to be able to see the manipulator widget in rendered view. But before in Blender 2.79, we still have to memorize what's going on. Aw. And we have to walk uphill both ways to get to the bevel modifier. Tab into object mode, and man, that's looking exactly like an Adirondack chair. I'm happy. Go into these arms and let's relax the vertex. Ah, man, I was worried about this. Okay, Control Tab V. These vertices need to smooth out. They need to bevel. Speaking of, this right here. They need to do that. This one's going to be easy. Shift Control B, you can bevel it and then smooth it out. That's no problem. This one's going to be a problem because it follows another line. So Shift Control B, it follows a third line. So as soon as I roll the mouse wheel up, it recreates a corner because Blender's a little bit confused at the math of the geometry. There are other ways to handle the weight of a bevel. So if we said this is what we wanted, we could change the bevel amount type. Depth, percent, offset, width. None of it is going to do us any good right now. So I know that beveling is a destructive feature if you're not using an add-on, but the good news is we can actually change a couple of things after I've totally screwed this up. Okay. Or we can select a nearby vertex, shift right click, select another nearby vertex, press J on the keyboard, Control Tab F, go into face select mode, take the resulting triangle, shift right click, select the next resulting triangle F, join them as one face. Hallelujah. Control Tab V, go into vertex mode. Now we no longer have the problem we had. And we also know that if we think this one's in the way, Shift V will walk it backward without disturbing anything, even if we've rotated the object itself off of the XYZ creation plane. So Shift V is better than just arbitrarily moving things. We haven't moved it, but it's still good practice. So I'm going to get some things out of the way just in case I feel like beveling this one and this one extra bunch. Shift Control B. That's a great lesson. Whoops. So guess what Blender remembered? Bummer. It remembered my settings. I shouldn't have messed with those settings. All right, so there's 5. Did you know you could do this? Ah, nuts. All right, I'm going to go right about here, and then... Uh-oh. Profile was 0.5, right? Good. Guess what profile does? Hear my raspy cough? Sounds like I'm getting sick again. My toddler had a raspy cough before I had a raspy cough. So, I know the vector. I need more coffee. Now, here at the bottom, it's sort of like a block and then a pretty thing. And no, we're not going to do sunk screws. If you wanted to do that, you can. This is a technique so that people don't get screws in their thighs and walk away bleeding from Adirondack chairs. It's really nice, and it's called sinking or something. We would call it like, inset face and bevel. I'm not going to do it, but you can do it. That's a level of detail that I'm not looking for. I want these a little bit thicker, as a matter of fact. 0.097 looks good to me. So 5 and 1. Let's create a curve in edit mode. G, move it far away. V, change the handle type to vector. And now rotate it 90 degrees. G, put it roughly where it belongs. And continue putting it roughly where it belongs. Take, A, I guess I don't know my alphabet, and extrude on the X, F, join those together, take those and move them in. So our rectangle is big and luscious like that and fits into this corner. Ooh. Do you use the word luscious when you work in 3D? You should. And now, free... I'll pull this one in. What will free give us? Let me envision this very quickly. I think this will work. Pick them all. Hit V. Go free. For things like this, fewer is better. Like less is more when we're doing this work. The work with these things, with vectors. I don't do this a lot, so this is like a real treat for me, but it's also really complicated. And if you do this kind of work, feel free to drop a line and tell me how great I'm doing. This, I think, is my version of this. That's actually a lot longer. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Groovy and luscious. Okay, done. Now, the very important, its transform is in the middle. Alt-C, mesh, and now select something that we love. And we love the arms. Shift right-click, select it, Control L. Let's make modifier connections between those. Oh, it doesn't have a face. Right, okay, so right-click, select it, and now let's do that fun, funky thing, which is tabbing into edit mode, selecting all of the edges, and Control F to grid fill, and have a look at the results. T to open the tool shelf that will give us access to changing things as we need to. Simple bending. Control spacebar hides and reveals your transform manipulator. Gosh, grid fill. You saved the day again. Look at that. God, I love that. The day I found a grid fill, like, changed everything. Ta-da! There it is. And now there's that. And we don't need it to be quite so thick. 0.05 or whatever. 0.075 is what we were doing, right? T to hide the tool shelf. Now in edit mode. Lurch it forward. Have a look. Gosh, it feels like orthographic. It is. And now this thing, we want to catch shadows. Does it catch shadows? The top seems to be having a little hiccup up there. I see shadows. Good job. Hello, Hiola. Now, can we... It's okay if I do that, right? Let's create a plane that is in edit mode, so it's actually a partner. S.1, it is like in the same object. Whoops. It's in the same object as what we just made. It's kind of confusing. I'm making the block that fits behind this. And I'm going to say, where are you? This block. Control Tab E for edges, Z. Go meet. I don't know. Extra support for people who sit on the arms of chairs, you barbarians. Z. But it's summer. Get off the arm of the chair. Which one is this? The X. GX. We want more shadows. And this whole thing's low. Control L to pick up that entire block that I just made. And GZ. And up, 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 up. I don't know if we're ever gonna look at the bottom of the chair, but we can now. Tab into object mode. You're beautiful. Yes, you. This is it. This is our chair. This is... we might be missing one piece. I want to say there's a piece that goes across the bottom. I mean, nope, there's not. This, slats, that, the block that goes behind it. Holy moly, we finished. I did it much faster today than yesterday. Okay, I said I was going to help you get rid of polygons. Let us cleverly join this whole thing. At any time, we can put the origin at the 3D cursor at the center of the world. Let's pick everything. Oh man, I've been building on the wrong layer. Let's move things away from the environment stuff. So select with right click M and then the working layer. M, the working layer. Okay, my working layer was 4. I recommend you do that because you should build objects out of multiple objects so that you can then apply all kinds of modifiers. Applying all the modifiers at once is something you can do. Sorry, I don't remember how. Let's apply them all right now and then we'll join things. So definitely we're happy, right? Solidify it, apply it, its count, and apply its curved shape. Apply its solidify and apply the second one on the other side. Apply its solidification and the one on the other side. Solidification and the one on the other side. This has no modifier. This is done. Apply the solidification and the modifier, and we don't need the curve anymore because it provided the round shape that we just applied. So X and delete it, and that's got it all, doesn't it? So select something and then press A, and now press Control J. Join it all together. Now move the seat either in object mode or in edit mode, any way you want, so that it's sitting on the ground. And now, set the origin to the 3D cursor, which I hope you've left at origin. Nancy, the properties, and we've maintained the rotation because my final selection happened to have been the part I rotated. So Control A and apply rotation. And now, that 15 point whatever is gone, lost to history. Let's have a look, shall we, at a bright yellow material. I already have one, and it's simple. Adirondack yellow. Look, yellow, click and drag that color into the viewport color so that even in solid mode, you can see a color. It doesn't always have to match. You could do whatever you want. but at render time, it'll still be yellow. Okay, so that's amusing. There we go. These, Nancy to hide that, Thomas to do this, that's N and T. And look at your object data, which is mesh object data. When we smooth this, nightmares happen. But when we auto smooth it, fewer nightmares happen. This piece was a real challenge because we deleted certain vertices and edges to make grid fill happy. So while you can see a pretty tough profile if you're close along the grazing angle of an edge, the facing angle of that same edge is smooth. Those are real words, and so if you understood that, good. There's our Adirondack chair. I'm going to show you how to randomize the color. So when we Shift D, make a duplicate, and Shift D, make a duplicate, and then select those three and Shift D, make duplicates, they're all different. Now they all have the same material, so I don't have to go nuts applying the material, but Shift F3 is going to give me the view right here. What I'm really interested in doing is creating some fun colors for summer. I'm going to use a color ramp, and I'm going to make that first color, I'm going to click and drag the yellow over the black. I will go to the second color stop and click and drag the yellow over the white. I will now use this color to inform the color. What? I'm now at the first color stop, and I'm going to change the hue, leaving the saturation and value identical. I'm going to go all the way across to a light blue. Now I'm going to press Shift A on the keyboard and change the input object. I'm going to use random information to select between those two colors. What could possibly go wrong? Well, we're close, but not quite, because that's not summer. It's cool, but it's not summer. So I could fill a picnic with Adirondack chairs. What's even better? How about if we don't use RGB? How about if we use an HSV color mode? Ho, 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 ho. Yeah. Oh, it just gets better. You can now have Adirondack chairs galore at the beach. Congratulations, good job. That alone was fantastic. Usually I try to make a patch of grass, but this time I think we've spent enough time playing around with this. That is so much fun. I hope that even some of you seasoned folks learned something. We have made a really good shape. Look at that scalloping. Gosh, that's beautiful. Look at those seat slats. Good for you and your seat slat curve. We've done some pretty cool stuff. And from the front, forget about it. That is an Adirondack chair. And so I want to stress the importance of, you know what? Change that. I want to de-stress the importance of having to measure things. It's good if you measure something like I did with this lawn chair, and you get a basic idea of its proportions. But sometimes you can eyeball proportions, and look, I made the arms a little too low. On ours, look, on mine the arm seems a little bit lower than it should be. I think it probably could have been up here. But the result isn't bad. Let me rotate this around into a snapped view. There's a snapped view. Let me make sure I get them all. Hey, I'm going to get those corners and press decimal, Shift Z. There we go. That's not bad. I think even with low arms, this looks fine. So I'm de-stressing the importance of having to measure everything, but I do want to re-emphasize proportions, and bigger slats would have done a much better job. These small slats are fine. Making them bigger before I applied all of those modifiers would have been so easy. And remember that curve, if we didn't delete it, we could just do this again. But remember again that the information that gave us that curve is still right here. So we haven't really lost the curve, because as Einstein said, life's a beach, man. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. Talk to you soon.